motion for the minutes of the May 19th meeting, please?
Move to approve.
For a second. All those in favor say aye.
I'd like to, hold on one second, I think I'd like to have those minutes amended. Andy, would you?
I think we should amend the minutes to say that your concerns we addressed about the trajectory of the budget.
Yeah, I'd like to amend it to say that, you know, after everything was done, that there were concerns about the trajectory and the future of the budget, the way it stands. And what did you say, Andy? I just want to make sure your words were, it's your words.
Can we just go ahead and rewrite that and we'll just put it on the next council meeting?
And then have,
And that way you guys can review
All right, so let that go. Okay, we're down to new business. Take it away.
them. Okay, let me get it set up here. All right, so rearranging this a little bit, so we just wanted to discuss this new business first and then have the visitor communication afterwards, so you can at least hear that. I will put up a business plan here on the screens in a second. So I just want to discuss publicly about a new development that's potentially going to be looked at by council from a company that wants to live or wants to locate in Fort Thomas. We're not allowed to release the company due to confidentiality until the property is sold, but I am going to share some details about the property and the company and the plan that has been discussed. The company is a regional grocery store that is a Fortune 500 company. It's a good quality company that has a great reputation not only with its customers, but also other jurisdictions in Northern Kentucky that have completed developments with them. We've done a lot of research with other cities. They're very community oriented and have a high quality products available. We have discussed this project with City Council over the last few months, and they provided many questions and recommendations. So I'll discuss a little bit about the location and the benefits of the city to the city if it's approved. So the location that we are discussing is on the Memorial Parkway known as Carlisle Park. It's a 6.8 acre property. The property was donated from Carlisle Enterprises to the city and was transferred in 2021. The intent at the time was to make this a public park. In coordination with KYTC, we conducted a drainage and geotechnical analysis in 2024. The plan was to create a solution for the drainage issues that are on the property and determine how the property could be best used with park features, things like that. Specifically, I think we were talking about if we could use it for pickleball there and other plans that we had talked about. In 2024, we completed borings at Carlisle Park ranging from a depth of 64 to 81 feet. The borings brought in various types of clay, as well as sand, gravel, brick fragments, and rock fragments. Materials from the borings were considered fill materials from the ground surface to depths ranging from 20 feet to 71.7 feet. Just so everybody knows, that 71 feet of fill, meaning 7 stories deep, is how much fill on the one boring was. Water was found in 2 of the borings that are unexplained at a depth of 30 feet below the existing grade. In the core of the 71 foot was a small layer of slag that's found at the bottom of the 71 feet, and that's a byproduct of steel production. We're assuming came from Newport Steel. It was dumped there years ago. Bedrock below the 3 borings consisted of gray shale limestone, which is typical in the area, but is also prone to slides. 3 inclinometers were added by the city to track the land movement, just to see if there is movement there, and it's analyzed every 6 months since its installation. The last one did show, they've all shown shifting of a ½ inch or less over the last each period. So to avoid settling associated with the surface and parking features, that's if we put in a parking lot, it was recommended to remove 6 feet of soil from the property and then bring that 6 feet back and put them in 8-inch lifts with compaction, water, and everything that you're supposed to do. That was what they had recommended to reduce the settling that would take place to 1 inch or less. That's when we were talking about making it into a park and being able to utilize it for that type of thing. No structures, would just be for parking. So that was really expensive. We had talked about, moving 6 feet of dirt, and it's 6 acres, so you can't, if you move it, you have to put it somewhere. So stockpiling, you may be able to do 3 parts at a time, but that's a huge undertaking. The drainage issues at the site there's a 54-inch pipe that runs underneath Memorial Parkway. The Carlisle Park side of the Memorial, the fill has been placed above the extension of the pipe, which has created a ponding area, which is allowing water to infiltrate into the unstable fill. The drainage analysis was performed, and in order to stabilize that, was estimated between $415,000 to $845,000 to address the stormwater blockage, which was caused from the fill in the property. I believe the fill that is blocking the storm water is contributing to the unstable nature of the property, and the storm water is infiltrating the uncompacted fill, which is increasing the chances of slides, which is why we put the inclinometers to make sure we track that. There are some reasons that we feel that selling this land would be beneficial for the city with the proper development. This property would be stabilized, and the city would no longer have this liability or the expense of repairing the property. So that's the description that I've talked to council about of the condition of the property itself. Does council have any questions about that? Did I leave out anything?
That's a great explanation. I just looked up how when Earth moves in millimeters in a year, and a half inch to an inch every 6 months.
Yeah, it's a half inch or less, but it's still.
I had my house slid on waterworks,
Oh, that's right.
Did, so I'm familiar with what damage I can do. So it's significant.
I'm losing power. So the proposed development would be for approximately 47,000 square foot, 2-story building, and that's the same size, just to try to let everybody understand, it's the same size as the KLH building, so the old IGA. That's what 47,000 square foot would look like. The second floor would actually be the grocery store. The first floor would be a parking garage, and then a 3,200 square foot liquor store. 3,200 square foot is the size of Snappy and Southside. So that's just so everybody kind of understands that. The first floor parking garage, council has seen some examples of it. It's hidden, so it doesn't really look like a parking garage. They do a really nice job of making it look like not a parking garage. The company will work with City of Fort Thomas on the exterior designs to ensure it fits the city. This has been a common theme throughout all the other cities that they've put into. Total parking spots have been estimated at 251, and there are larger parking spots than normal as their standard, and that's inside and out. So it'd be 140 outside and about 75 parking spots inside. Let me go ahead and put up, I do have the initial design that they had came up with. That might help out.
Turn on the lights. Can everybody see those?
I might be able to. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. If everybody can kind of take a look there to see, this is the Carlisle Park. They do have the entrance here to line up with Stardust. That is actually on Newport's property. This development would include Newport. And I'll go ahead and zoom in on this. It might be easier for you. If I can. Is that better?
And not the one on Highland Avenue. That's getting demolished during this process.
Let's see if this works. Alright, I'll try it. Let me as nice looking, but. Okay, so that's the layout of the proposed. Again, this is just a proposed. It would have to be approved by Planning Commission, DRB, and possible Board of Adjustment as well. The expectation of this company is to have 2,000 visitors a day at the retail store. They expect to have 15 to 20 deliveries per week with a tractor trailer, 50 additional weekly deliveries from smaller vehicles like vans and full-size pickup trucks. All deliveries will be made at the rear loading dock. The rear loading dock is there on the right hand of the screen. The store will employ between 120 and 200 associates. A traffic study will be conducted as typical, and that will ensure to see what kind of deceleration and acceleration lanes are needed on Memorial Parkway to allow traffic to flow.
So turn lanes, right?
For turn lanes, yes, for turn lanes to turn into, to allow traffic to continue, or a deceleration, which would be an additional lane on the side that you would turn into the business. The developer has agreed to pay $650,000 for the 6.8 acres, in addition to the tax benefits the city will obtain. This development would create jobs for 120 to 200 people, which is a mix of full-time and part-time employees. The city would see increased revenue from the tax, the payroll tax, property tax, insurance premium, tangible, and utilities franchise fees. The total conservative estimates are over $180,000 annually for the first year. And to put the revenue into perspective for Fort Thomas, this is about the number 2, 3, or 4 highest revenue business in the city. Also, the business is not asking for any incentives or financial assistance from the city of Fort Thomas. It's all funded through them. Along with financials, we also look at possible increase in services for any development that comes into the city. From all the research we've conducted through other businesses like this and the other new developments in Northern Kentucky, this will not be a strain on the police or the fire department. Additionally, Public Works would not have to maintain the space, and it would be nicely landscaped at the completion of the development. Are there any questions from council on the financials? Anything I left out? What's that?
I was explaining,
Okay.
thank you.
So just to kind of let everybody know the process, if this would move forward, the first thing, the business has given us an LOI to agree to sell the property that allows them to do their due diligence. The council would need to vote on a municipal order to authorize the mayor to enter into that agreement. That agreement again would be for $650,000 for the property, and then that would be paid out if all the everything else has come to fruition and it got sold to them. STNL is the company that would be developing the property for the end user. If council approves, and that the municipal order will be on next in 2 weeks on that agenda for council to approve. It's listed this month, but you can see it doesn't say approve on it. I just wanted it to be available ahead of time for the public. STNL will then complete their due diligence, if approved, which will include geotech, soil testing, and surveying at a minimum. STNL, if that goes well and they want to continue the process, they will have to submit for a zone change and a development plan at the same time with the Planning Commission for the UDO. The Planning Commission process could take as little as 4 months, but most likely it would take 6 to 8 months, especially depending on KYTC approval and other factors like drainage, geotech, lighting, signage, landscape, and other Planning Commission concerns. STNL would need approval from the Tree Commission for the development, and it would also need approval from the DRB to ensure it meets all the design elements needed for the development. Once the boards have approved the zone change and development plan, the city council will vote on the zoning change. Currently, it's listed as residential, so obviously it would need a change. The development likely fit the neighborhood commercial office zone, the NCO zone of the UDO. But again, that would have to do with what PC, any questions or changes PC may be requesting. The city of Fort Thomas would issue the initial grading and zoning permits after PC and council approval, and then Campbell County would be handling all permitting after that, since they do all of our commercial buildings. So that's my summary of, kind of questions I've gotten from council over the last couple months, everything that we've discussed and kind of laid out. Does council have anything to add to that?
If they don't meet the requirements, we do get the land back, right?
Yes, the land only gets sold if PC, everything gets through PC, everything gets through tree commission, everything gets to DRB, and then Board of Adjustments if needed. And then at that point, and the development plan, and at that point, then the city would transfer it to them. And then that's when we would get paid for that, and they would be able to start construction.
Matt, for the benefit of council and the community, can you just, to the best of your knowledge, if everything were to go smoothly from an approval and permitting process, what are we looking at timeframe wise until the end user would potentially open doors?
It'd be 2 to 3 years before it would be occupied and open.
Any other comments from council?
Did we do a sign up or not?
We did do a sign up.
Oh, sorry, I thought he was coming up to speak.
Thanks again, Steph Chalk. I still live at 21 Lafayette. And thanks for letting me speak this evening. Mine is more on the budget now that we've clarified some things. And the city budget message report dated May 16th references, well, obviously it mentions the $7,539,751 shortfall in the operating versus the expenditures versus the income. The document also states, we're moving forward with all large projects to improve the citizen experience throughout our wonderful town. And I'm wondering, can we get a list of the large projects that you're referencing?
Yeah, it's in that. Have you seen that? It is listed in that.
Those are all projects?
Yes.
Okay. But the armory improvements are not in there, right?
No, the armory improvements, again, just discussion. We have not allocated any funding to that. We still don't know the scope or any real big details yet.
So I'm curious with the, 2 years ago, I guess we had approximately 20 million in the reserves. Now we have roughly 10. And if we have an $8 million shortfall on the operating versus the operating account versus income.
You're saying $8 million shortfall. You just mean that we're spending money out of the reserve fund. Right.
Well, that was going to be my question.
Yeah.
Does that come from the reserve fund?
Right. And the reserve fund isn't an emergency fund. It's a fund that we save up for large purchases.
Wouldn't that take that then to roughly 2 to 3 million left in that?
No, it brings it down to 8 million, just under 8 million.
16 was the one. So that is
16, not 10. Okay. Thank you. I was thinking it went from 20 to 10 with the 10 million that went out over the last 2 years. And I keyed into on the trend of the financials on the operating is we've already discussed that, but that is a concern. And once again, recently replacing an auditor that's been with us since 2019. New accounting system. I mean, all this sends a message that, you know, kind of like it's a lot of moving parts at once. So it's concerning to a lot of people as to are we depleting too much from a reserve standpoint? We already talked about that. There's also what I would consider some contradictions in that document, as well as the document that's unsigned and undated, the fiscal year 2025, 2026. Who authored that document?
I did.
Okay. And when did that come out? I'm just curious.
When did we put it out? It was last.
Before the council meeting?
It was right before the council meeting.
Was it?
Pretty
Okay.
sure, yeah.
It was up with the public hearing. Yeah, when we put the public hearing out.
Okay. From what I consider a contradiction, it says real taxes. The budget assumes no increase in tax rate for 2025 tax year, and then the other document states that the mayor and staff will present information to support a discussion about whether to consider a tax increase this year, and then it goes on to say other.
That was just for budget. So for budgeting purposes, we didn't assume any new revenue,
Okay.
right? Because when you do that, you kind of spend more usually, right? That allows you to spend more. So for budgeting purposing, we kept the rate the same. That way the revenue held.
Okay.
That makes sense.
And are we looking to, I mean, in a tax increase or a tax rate change or whatever it is that lifts the revenue from that, is that to replace reserves or is that for another reason?
It's a discussion for council to decide. I mean, we'll take a look at our future and see if there's a need to increase reserves. Because we've all discussed what's the right number. Is it 3 months, 6 months to be whole, to truly keep that as your reserve, right? And you don't really want to spend that. So that fund isn't an emergency. It's just a policy that council can set for staff to let us know. Don't, make sure we're not spending below this amount.
Okay.
So if I may real quick too.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to, it may not put you at ease, but I just want you to know, some of these changes that, for example, the Springbrook software company and the new auditor, these were all very intentional decisions that we made, and they were from a standpoint of trying to improve versus because there was a glaring problem that we needed to fix.
Sure.
And I think there's obviously been some transition with both of these things, but in my time on council, and I think everybody on council who's been on longer than I have can say, including the mayor, our audits have come back they've been exemplary every time I've been involved with it. And so I do look forward to getting that audit back. And the other thing that I want to mention, it's been brought up a couple times at the meeting tonight about the trajectory, right? About revenues versus expenses and our our operating expenses and that trajectory over time. I know you guys wanted to amend the last meeting's minutes to address that, which is totally fine, but we've discussed several times, including at least twice at the last council meeting and at the finance committee meeting before that. So I'll just reiterate it. That's a huge priority for the city. I think it has been in the past since I've been involved, but we are taking active steps to get together in the interim, in the midterm, on more than one occasion with the finance committee. We'd like to involve the community to really, and Andy brought it up earlier, to dig in and look, not just 5 years down the road, but what is a good number for us, a comfortable number, a safe number, a fiscally responsible number to keep in our reserves, and what's a safe number to anticipate for our expenses, whether it's personnel or operations or whatever it is. And we just want to do the best we can to hone in on that. And I think I just want to let you know, we are making a concerted effort to do that. And we're, including this year, we're going to take steps that we didn't last year. The finance committee is going to get together, I think, this summer. So let's include everybody in that. But it's a collaborative process, and so the concern is heard. That the trajectory, if you look at it, based on this budget summary and narrative, yes, we've got expenses that exceed some revenues, and we have spent some money in recent years. But it's something we're aware of, and it's not accidental. It's very intentional, and I think moving forward, we just want to hone in on, we're going to have expenses and they're going to rise. Obviously, we all know that, just like everything else. we want to make sure we're in a comfortable spot and a safe spot for the city, and I think we will be, but that's what we're geared towards.
Thanks for that. And the logical question is, if this, our prior auditing firm was doing such a poor job, why did it take so long to can them?
Well, I can't answer that, and I don't know that they were doing a poor job. You can speak to it. I know that there were some, I think they have been working.
Something wasn't working.
They've been working for the city for a long time, and I think you can explain maybe more.
Yeah, I mean,
of the process.
I'm not saying that it did a poor job, but we definitely you should rotate real, auditors, you know, every so often, just to get a new set, of people. Even the auditors that we use now, they actually rotate their people, even if when they're doing year after year, which is good, because you don't have that same person looking at that same fund.
But the auditor's not going to, I would assume, not going to balance accounts. So I think the auditor looks for anomalies and.
Checks just to make sure that general accounting principles are being followed.
Okay.
Ben speaks very well, and you know, and he hits a great point, but this feels like more like a fire drill to me. I feel like we should have been attacking this not as it's about to approach us and come upon us, but a year or two ago. So even though that we're looking into it now, I just don't feel like
What is that?
that the salaries and the caps and where we're going, because our revenue stream doesn't weigh in, right? So Andy,
I don't know
am I wrong, Andy?
I don't know where you're saying that we're in the red next year. I mean, our operating expenses
I never
are
said we were
still.
in the
You said
red.
we have a chance to be in the red if we don't raise taxes, is what you said last.
No, what I said is if we continue the trajectory of the last 2 years, we certainly would.
Yeah, exactly. So we certainly would be, so it just feels like a fire drill that we're attacking it now, when we should have probably gotten a little ahead of time. If we'd added on some expenses, we probably should have.
And that's
I'm
just-
just glad that it was pointed out so we can look at it.
I don't
When
think
said that,
that's
I was
true,
just talking about the revenue.
I don't think, I mean, what expenses have we added that's putting us into the red?
The salaries, we doubled the salaries.
That was
in there.
intentional because we all discussed that with the union contract. That was intentional because during COVID, the
Not
rates
just
were
the
very
police,
low.
but the mayor's is almost doubled, it's $200,000 more under the mayor, it's, the main salary influx is there too. So, under the mayor's office, according to this, you know, I'm just saying that it just feels like we're attacking it a little late, but you know, I'm just glad we're trying to get ahead of it now.
Well, it's good we're doing that. I would just hope that we don't use our taxing authority to replenish reserves as a lazy way to do that. So if we can replenish reserves, obviously the reserves aren't as ominous as I had thought, but I would like to see us to see the city come back to council with a balanced budget, one that doesn't go in that same direction. I mean, since we're so close to teetering on continuing on versus we can change,
I mean, this is a balanced budget.
turn the corner.
I mean, it's a
right.
balanced budget.
Well, I'd like
I mean,
to, I guess I would like to see expenditures not higher than revenue. That's all.
But I mean, operating expenditures aren't, but the capital and the projects are, and that's what was intentional from council wanting to do the extra and staff.
Yeah, there's another like layer to what I was saying, in that the way Fort Thomas has been run over a very long time is that we typically don't, I think we did this building, but we don't go out and get a loan and just build a new park. So we have zero debt if you consider that we have a restricted reserve also. That's not part of our just general reserve. There's a restricted reserve that is essentially the same amount as the debt we have. So you can kind of look at that as we have no debt.
Okay.
Because we can pay it off.
Yeah.
And that's what I.
Well, that's a luxury for us.
Yeah, so typically, I guess the city, if you wanted to go do something, you'd get financing, you do it, and then you're paying interest. We have always, in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is a balanced budget, but in the past, we've had a surplus that builds the reserve, and then we pay cash. It's just like a young person now going out and putting a pool in with financing, where you might save up and do it with cash.
Right.
That's not completely accurate, depending on what we did when. A lot of times we did take on debt. We issued bonds because we were making
Yeah,
more on the
that's what I'm
money.
saying.
And-
Building. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. But just the little stuff, we're running, a few $100,000 surplus, and that money is what for all these little pocket parks, that's what we're doing. That's the money we're using to pay for
correct? But in the aggregate, we're not, I wouldn't characterize it as we're in trouble or in aggregate on a bad trajectory, because it's balanced. The issue is that if you're not running a surplus, how do you build and you've already brought the capital down, the reserves down, then you're not building capital for future projects. So that's where you want to get the expenses under control, so that, so if next year somehow we ran a deficit of $400,000 in the operating budget, we're not in trouble. The $400,000 would come out of the $8 million, but that's not a sustainable thing. We want to make sure we're sustainable and build capital.
I think that's what we all want.
Right? That's what we're looking at.
I think we're all in that same mind frame. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, John.
Joan Ferris, 66 Bernie Lane. Tonight I'm pleading to every member of City Council that you watch the complete video of the Planning and Zoning meeting of May 21st of 2025. It was recorded in 3 parts. It was a long meeting. Watch closely and you will see that many of the discussions that have taken place in open forum City Council meetings have been completely ignored by Planning and Zoning Commission. As an example, and correct me if I'm wrong, but recent discussions at council meetings seem to indicate, to me at least, a thirst for a new updated public survey to be conducted prior to designing a new comprehensive plan. Check out part 1 of this video. Starting at about the 46-minute mark, there's a discussion of confirming that the 2015 survey, now 10 years old, is still valid in relation to any new or updated comprehensive plan. In many of the meetings, that was proven to not be true. It wasn't valid when they used it 5 years ago. It's certainly no more valid now. At 47.19 minute marker, the Director of General Services stated that if you don't think it's still valid, then we're starting over with the comp plan. I don't think that's where anyone is. That seemed like, so how are you going to vote? Probably to validate it. I have no idea to whom he was referring when he used the term anyone. Perhaps it was just himself. I don't know. But I was under the impression the council was leaning toward moving forward with a new survey and a new comp plan. No? Am I wrong on that?
You're correct. That's what we talked about. We actually all agreed to meet with Planning Commission before they voted on
They don't want to meet.
So
Just back
we've
in the
all agreed to
meeting,
that, though.
I just didn't mark down the minute marker. At the 48-49 minute mark, still in part 1, a planning and zoning member read verbatim from a memo that the general services person wrote and distributed to every commission member prior to the meeting. She read it as a formal motion. Without discussion, at 49-48, the motion was seconded and approved. So in 59 seconds, any discussion City Council had over all the month regarding a new survey or a new comp plan was reduced to ashes. I don't feel that that's fair to you. That's just my opinion. You can feel insulted or honored, whichever way you see it. On other topics, I have neither the time nor the energy to listen to the video again or read the transcript again to document how many times a reference was made similar to, if we just tweak the existing comp plan, we don't have to run it past council. If we make a more significant change, they might notice it, and in which case they could open it up for discussion. That seems ghastly disrespectful to this group. That was not a direct quote, those were my words. However, the intention was very clear. What council doesn't know won't hurt planning and zoning. If we can just get it past them, we'll be home free. Third topic, smart cities. Smart cities are mentioned 6 times in part 2 of the recorded meeting. Phrases such as smart city investments and 5-year smart city plan. If memory serves me correctly, I believe our city manager has denied that Fort Thomas is looking into becoming a smart city. Perhaps that has changed. Either way, I would listen closely to see if the Planning Commission has different ideas on this matter. the minute markers for smart cities are mentioned are at 7:49, 8:22, 17:06, 17:43, and 19:08. That's scary. I don't know if you're all very familiar with smart cities. It's got a catchy little phrase. There's some really undesirable fallout from that. One final note, and that was just on the presentation about the possible grocery sale of the property. Just to clarify, there was mention of I don't remember, I don't know if I jotted down the amount to make it, to like correct the soil and
To fix the drainage.
okay, was it also the soil taken off the 6 feet and?
Well, I did not bring up the cost for that.
Okay, well, regardless, does the city have to do that before they will buy it?
No.
Okay, so they're well aware of the.
Yes, yeah, we provided them with that, even our drainage report, they've done very minor, surveying and looking at it, but their next step would be to do their own borings and everything else.
If it's their expense, that's right, as long as that's clear.
Mhm.
But the other.
Yeah, we do have $300,000 in the budget this year to fix the drainage there. Obviously, we're gonna hold off on that just to see if that's something we need to do or not.
That they might do it.
Yeah, that would be cut out of the budget
Okay.
if council decided to sell it and they decided to build, yeah.
Okay, you mentioned a zoning change, which I would certainly understand, and you said it would probably be NCO, Neighborhood Commercial Office. Ben, you might remember this better. I cannot believe I'm not remembering it. Is that what Top of Bivouac is?
I'm pretty sure.
That's what I thought, and here's the thing. There's a limit to how big the property can be, the lot can be in an NCO, and this is way out of that.
That was just my quick looking through to see what it would fit in.
There may be another place it fits in.
Right. Yep.
But.
Yeah, and again, that's not for me to say, that would be for planning commission to look at. I was just doing a quick look at it. It looked like that was,
Okay.
is what it would fit. So I'd have to look into that deeper, but that's not one thing I did look
But
into.
you do tell them how much it would cost to bring that soil down and bring it back up, and yet the report still said we couldn't even put a gazebo on it, like,
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
just simply to get it.
That was just for parking lot.
The parking lot.
or
No,
tennis
no
courts
zero
or-
structures or anything. How much was that?
I don't even remember.
It was a lot though.
Yeah.
It was quite a bit.
That would, I don't know, I'm not the one buying it, but that would make me really nervous to think you're doing a 2-story with, what did you say, 250 parking
Yeah,
spaces?
I mean, they would
Wow.
carry it, obviously.
That's their business, not mine.
Yep.
But do check into that NCO for 2 reasons. They may need a new zone. And
Correct, it might be.
one thing
a
that made
new-
me nervous when they named Top of Bivouac and those 2 small locations on Memorial, if you open that door and then say, and by the way, it's okay if it's 25 acres and you can take down these homes to do it because it's not in the CBD, or however that could tip that domino down. And I'm surprised Design Review Board would be in on this, because I thought that their only things were in the historical preservation zones.
No, they're in any of the business districts. So that
Well, I
they're,
don't think that's a business district.
well, it would become a zone, and they would be in charge of the facade. So if you look under the NCO, it's page 165, and it goes through.
165 of the UDO?
Yeah, section 3.6, page 165, that's where it starts just showing the different, what the facade needs to be, percentage of windows, things like that.
Okay.
So the DRB is in charge of all that for any business.
I thought it was just in the historically preserved things, but I just wanted to.
I want to touch base on the planning commission stuff right now. I don't want to go into too much detail because this is obviously a long meeting. We've got a meeting in 2 weeks. We did all agree to.
We are having a meeting.
Yeah, but how long do we have before their vote takes effect, and then can we stop that from taking effect? So once they
We can always stop it. The point is having a meeting right now, they need to get through to see what the changes they're looking for. And before they make any big changes, we need to make sure that we meet. So the first step, I sent this out a couple months ago, was to say if the research and everything was valid. and they voted on that. Now, the next step to see is, do they want to change the goals and objectives? Thank you.
So they did not vote to accept the planning, so we don't have 60 days not
Can I
to accept.
clarify real quick?
Please.
I was
Thank
there. As it turns out, they're now determining goals and objectives and whether or not they think they need to be modified. I'll disagree a little bit with Joan's characterization in that I don't think there was ever this vote of, or this thought that if we keep it real small, the changes, then we don't bring it to council. In fact,
I'm not concerned with that. What I'm concerned with is that they took a vote, and then that's gonna go into effect before we meet with them. So if I wanna know, did they vote, and then if we don't take action in 30 or 60 days, does it become effect or not? Yes
They
or no?
did vote on the research issue. They've not gone through the goals and objectives.
So they did vote on the research issue, so that would go into effect in how long?
I'll look that up on the KRS.
Because I don't think the way we talked about it, we wanted them to meet before they approved anything.
And let me just finish one thing though. There is absolutely zero doubt that they had made the determination that the goals and objectives were going to be changed enough that undoubtedly it was going to have to go to council. So that was a certain at the end.
So, but what did they vote on? I'm just confused on what they voted on.
They voted to say that they think the research is still relevant.
So that's the whole thing.
No, then you go to goals and objectives. So now,
Goals and objectives is the whole thing. I mean, the goals and objectives is where, I mean, that's even before.
Well, I
the
just
bigger
would
stuff.
like to discuss it next meeting. If you could send us the research side of it, then the goals and objectives, so we know what part that they have accepted. And know what
I
part
did
they
send
haven't.
that, but I'll forward it back to council.
I don't-
I explained the whole process.
You
of
explained
what-
the process, but you didn't break down the research and
Okay.
the objectives. So I just want to make sure that, and I don't want to miss that window, that we don't agree with that part too. All I'm asking is we meet and do a survey, and then we add that survey.
So I've sent the survey to council and I haven't gotten any responses.
Well, I thought that because we discussed meeting with planning commission to see what they want to do.
Do you want to do that before the survey?
I'd like to hear their opinion
Okay.
on the survey, yeah, and see what
Okay,
they'd like
that's
to
fine.
hear about it too, so.
Sharon?
Yep.
I just have a comment to say about what you're saying about being confused at what happens at the planning commission meetings. I think it would be very helpful, and I've sent this suggestion before, if, because if you think you're confused, a community member who sits through there is just as confusing to us. And I think it would be really beneficial if one of the city council members could sit in on those meetings. And that way you can hear firsthand what's being addressed and what the input is being brought into by the community members. So that's my 2 cents on that. But I do want to comment about the possible sale of Carlisle Park for development of a regional grocery store. Fort Thomas is only 5.2 square miles. That makes preserving our green space incredibly important. Most residents, myself included, support the vision and the comprehensive plan to remain a city in a park and the preservation of green space. Selling off land that was donated in 2021 to be used as a park goes directly against that vision, in my opinion. Here's a direct quote from the October 19, 2021 Link NKY article. Memorial Parkway land donated to Fort Thomas Newport for public park. Chris Manning, an environmental planning consultant to the city, made the announcement. Through this company, Human Nature, he has helped the city with development projects. He said, some exciting news for the city, a property that has been on our radar for a long time, and we've often said we should try to acquire it. The property owner is donating that property to the city to turn it into a park, he announced. Manning acknowledged that there were some geotechnical limitations in terms of access that could affect the various uses of the property that will need to be addressed, but right now, it's time to celebrate. It's a big moment in our history, he said. Another direct quote from the article, the mayor said he and other city leaders want very much to honor the donor by naming the property Carlisle Park. Okay, so how did we go from celebrating this property to now looking into selling it for profit to a regional grocery store? I mean, let's be honest, if that property had real development potential, it likely would have been built on long before it was donated to the city as a public park. At the time, the donation seemed like a thoughtful gesture to preserve green space, but now for the city to act surprised that it's not easily buildable and to consider selling it just because a large developer might throw enough money at it to make it work just doesn't sit right with a lot of us. What in the world is going on with our finances that's leading us to sell off our green space? This decision seems to have been made largely behind closed doors without meaningful public input. I mean, much like what happened with the One Highland development. We have smart, engaged residents who want to contribute but need to be included from the beginning, not after decisions are already made. Some of you ran for council to prevent another One Highland deal from happening. Well, this is your opportunity to follow through on that promise. Reach out to your community. Look at the comp plan. Send out a new survey. See if the community wants this. But I tell you, I'm pretty sure we enjoy our green space in our little small quaint town. Thank you.
Elizabeth?
I'll defer till the end to see what I want to talk about together.
Hillary?
So, alright.
Hillary Landgraf, 47 Woodland Place. A little bit of commentary about the proposed sale of the park. One of the things I learned when I started house hunting here was the clay shale slides. Okay. I also grew up in New Orleans, and if you know anything about the land down there, you know that until about 60 years ago, they could not build anything taller than the old Hibernia Bank building because they hadn't figured out how to drill pilings down to the bedrock. All those skyscrapers you see when it's on TV, they're sitting on poles. Okay? So I'm really concerned about the notion of building, that proposed grocery store on such unstable ground. I think what's going to happen is when they do their due diligence, they're likely to back out of the whole deal. I think I would. Because what you described to me today was even worse than what I knew about before. Ya está? That's it.
Thank you. Holly?
Hi, I'm Holly Collins, from 31 Crowdale. I'm going to join that group that thinks it's a bad idea to take green space, which we have a limited amount of, and turn it into another grocery store when we have 4 other grocery stores within 2 miles of this space. And like Sharon said earlier, like why all of a sudden would somebody spend an exorbitant amount of money to put a grocery store in the middle of another grocery store? We don't have to name it, but I mean, I wasn't born yesterday. It's a grocery store war that's been going on between 2 companies. So one person wants to be closer to the other, so they're going to pay us more than the property's probably worth. But to back up on why we have that property, from the beginning, I wanted to preserve as much green space in town too. That's always been my thing. And so I knew Wayne Carlisle owned that property. So I said, you know what we should do is ask Wayne. He grew up, he lived here, raised his kids here. He grew up in Newport and Fort Thomas owned that property. Maybe he would gift that to Fort Thomas for a park, which is why it's called Carlisle Park. So he did. Kindly, he was asked to do that, gave it to the city for a park. And now everyone celebrated, like Sharon read that thing, everyone was very happy. And it's a big surprise now that people think, oh wait, they're gonna turn that into a grocery store? Are you freaking kidding me? And I mean, a park does not have to be expensive. You don't have to take 6 feet down and build a parking lot and pickleball courts. A park can just be green space. A park's defined by an area of natural, I can't read my writing, natural or semi-natural or planted space set aside for humans' enjoyment or for the protection of wildlife and natural habitat. And I venture to say the value of $680,000 when you drive into town versus you coming into town and the sense of peace you feel when you come and look, whoa, I am almost home in this green space of Fort Thomas, is not worth giving up for $680,000. It's an inherent, intangible value to have that green space driving into our great town. Thank you.
Somebody deferred.
I did, but I'll good.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
All right, we will move ahead then. To, let's see, visitors communication. Do we have anything under that? That's what we just did? Oh, okay. We're down to ordinance resolutions and orders. We're canning the ordinance on the bike thing, because we're going to
Yes.
do that. So we're down to 07, which is first reading of the budget amendment ordinance.
Yes.
And I will catch up in a minute.
All right, take your time.
And on that ordinance, I met with Ben after he had met with, I think it was Tiffany, and we did adjust, the total for the municipal aid fund, so it was just, it didn't total properly there, so that's the only change from the last reading. It was minor.
Ordinance number 007-2025, an ordinance amending a general fund budget for the city of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky for the fiscal year 7/1/2024 through 6/30/2025 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government.
And that is a first reading for the second time.
Ordinance number,
Not a second reading, a first reading.
ordinance number 008-2025, an ordinance adopting a general fund budget, municipal road aid fund budget, debt service fund budget, capital project, CBD fund, health insurance fund, and waste disposal fund budget for the city of Fort Thomas, Campbell County, Kentucky for the fiscal year 7/1/2025 through 6/30/2026 by estimating revenues and resources and appropriating funds for the operation of city government.
Also a first reading for the second time.
Ordinance number 009-2025, an ordinance amending the personnel and pay classification plan by unilaterally increasing the official pay table by 4%, effective on July 1/2025, and amending the compensation ranges for various positions.
All right, that's also a first reading. All right, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Move adjourned.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you all for being here tonight, appreciate it.